You're listening to Truth on Tap with host Kevin.
Opening up the truth pipeline for these bitches.
Truth on Tap. Truth.
My right to say how I say it's mine to give. My hands, my heart, it's mine to share. My songs, my heart.
Truth on Tap.
Invite to use. Just the wish to use. Chop it up and recombine. Chop it up and recombine.
Truth on Tap is now flowing from iHeartRadio. Get your Kierstead fix by Googling Truth on Tap with Kevin A. Kierstead. All the truth you can handle running hot on iHeart, Facebook, Spreaker, and more. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth on Tap.
Oh no, it must be September 17th, 2014 at 2:15, amputee manipulative. That's AM for you folks that didn't get it. Yeah, you know I like to explain my jokes. What the fuck is going on? You know, you're just sitting there and doing your daily thing, dealing with your own problems, and your ex comes out of nowhere swinging the fist. I gotta talk about it. Yeah, psychosis is something we'll talk about this show. We're going to talk about whether or not yours truly is a felon or fugitive. Yeah, I've been accused of it tonight. Gotta get it out. It's truth on tap, folks. We tell the truth here, whether it harms me or not. The truth will come out. You betcha. What a mystery. Is Kevin a felon or a fugitive or both? Yeah. What I'm going to have to do tonight is I'm going to have to frame things somewhat carefully, and I'll explain that to you as we begin to evolve from the beginning of this show to the middle and finally to the end. Eno's generic hip-hop session, I use it to fire me up a little. It's a short song. It's almost over, but it's okay. I've got Genghis featuring Stereo Blackstar coming up, Super Negro. I haven't gotten tired of that song yet, have you? Some of you guys may have. I'm sorry if you have. Let me know if you have. I'll try to find something else, but it works for me right now. I might ride it for 2-3 months, you know. We'll see.
You're listening to Truth on Tap with host Kevin.
Yeah. Are you ready to boycott iHeart? Good God, man. Yeah. Genghis featuring Stereo Blackstar, Super Negro. Sing it, bitchos. Yeah, this is it. I just need to crank this a little on my end. You won't hear a difference. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Well, what fires you up? This fires me up a little. Yeah, I'm going to turn that back down. I think this will be our last song. We'll get into business. Might have a friend calling in later in the show. I am going to teach you in this show how to identify a psychopath. It's been a topic lately. There's been basically a witch hunt going on for psychopaths, and I'm going to give you a little bit of cautionary tale about that. You may find that from some of these lists I read, you've got a couple of traits of a psychopath. That doesn't matter. We all have one or two. The question is when you have 5 or 6, 8 or 10. Now you got to start wondering. First sign that you are not dealing with a psychopath is someone who you know deep in your heart feels guilt over anything. Psychopaths can't do it, my friends. They don't have empathy. It's not that they lost it. They never had it. They don't know what it means. They know how to imitate empathy. They're smart enough to learn how to look like normal humans, but they're not normal humans. We just did a show. My last show was half about guilt and how, I know the people that connected with that show felt. You know what guilt is. You're not guessing. I can't see a psychopath saying, this is what guilt should feel like. Let me try to imagine what guilt would feel. No, I can't. No, they don't know. They're all about number one. Yeah. We'll get into it. This is going to be a prep show. I got to be careful what I say in this show. As I said, I'll explain that to you. We're going to talk about a couple of things that have been put into legal motion. One thing you can be sure of is never get into this kind of drama that you find between Spreaker hosts. That won't happen. But when it comes to my ex, I can't stop her. She just she's like machine gun of the mouth, and accuracy is not important. I see we got some people in chat room. I'll be in there just a second to check on you folks. I just got to do a quick sound check here. As you know, the other night I turned on Skype and brought up Google Voice so I could take calls, and bam, it cut my mic. So I'm sitting there talking for 20 minutes. Nothing. Completely ruined the end of my show. That ticks me off. Very few things make me mad. That made me mad. And it's really my fault. I should have known. Anytime you change something on my old laptop, you gotta check and make sure things are still working the way they should. And I didn't check. I didn't even check in chat. Yeah, that'll be it for music. And so we go. Now, you've got a right to know if your host is a felon or a fugitive. I think I'll just start out with the answer. No, I'm not. Now, here's an example. A little birdie may have told me earlier that my ex-wife, after going on her tirade, which she'll do just randomly, you never know when it's coming. It might have something to do with alcohol. I can't be sure. But if we go way back in time, you find out that there was a court order that came out of our divorce and custody battle that said I was not allowed to post information on the internet about her, okay? And the reason that came about is because I went, when I had found out what she had done, and took a polygraph with a friend. This friend had told me the whole story about the way my ex-wife had been behaving, and I wanted to make sure. I knew this was a big decision I was making, whether or not to file divorce. So we got the polygraph done, and I posted the results on a little, y'all might not remember, but back around 2001, they had these little free websites, Tripod or whatever, you could make your own little website. So I posted it on a site, didn't advertise it to the public. I sent the link to about 20 of my email contacts. Well, they printed that out and used that against me because it was used to hurt her, and it was. I was trying to hurt her. I'd been hurt. But it was the results of the polygraph exam. Well, as a result of that, she and her attorney got written into the court order that I couldn't publish information on the internet about her. So tonight's story, my friends, is going to have to be something fictitious. I mean, it doesn't really matter. This court order is 13 years old. It came out of one state. She lives in another state. I live in another state. You could almost brush it aside, but why take chances if I don't have to? Especially when I can tell you a great fiction story about a lady named Chuckette. Yeah, we're going to call her Chuckette. That's her name tonight. Now, this is entirely fictitious. As you know, none of this is true. But it should be a lot of fun. Let's see who's in the chat. There's Apocalypse. Much difference between that and a narcissist? No, I don't think so, Apocalypse. I think a psychopath typically is a narcissist, but a narcissist is not necessarily a psychopath. I think the definition of psychopath goes wider than narcissism. And that's what we're going to read. I looked at all these websites. I didn't have time. I had 15 minutes to plan this show. Once I found out that that this false, fictitious person named Chuckette had posted on her Facebook status that everyone should boycott iHeartRadio because they carried my show and I'm a fugitive and a felon, I thought to myself, that's funny, because this fictitious character fictitiously had a police officer come over to my house to tell me that she had called him and said that in the court order it said so-and-so. So I was essentially being given a warning. Now, there were two ways I could have handled this. I could have said, get the hell off my property if you don't have a search warrant, number one. Number two, read the goddamn court order before you assume she's telling you the truth. The woman lies like a psychopath. I don't know how else to put that. But I didn't. He was a nice officer. He said, listen, it was just a call. She was concerned. And the whole reason for this, that I had in this fictitious story announced that I was going to do a show revealing everything about her. Because I'm tired of the potshot attacks that I get every couple months. You get tired of it. You know, most people that know me know that you got to poke me in the chest long enough to leave a bruise there before I do something. And then when I do something, I go the fuck off. Is that unreasonable? I don't think it is. If you really want to know, I've written a few fiction pieces. The one fiction piece in which I really included a good part of myself and one of the characters was Addie's Boom in the Blast Frontier. He got his nickname Boom because you could poke him and poke him and prod him and poke him, but you'd have to do it for a long time. But when he finally went off, he went off with a boom. And in a sense, that's what I'm doing tonight with this fictitious story about someone that doesn't exist. However, this is just the beginning. This is the initial defense and opening volley, if you will. You might even call it opening arguments if it were being handled as it would be a court case, something of that nature. So what I'm going to do is I will be checking on you guys in chat to see in which direction the conversation is moving. And what we're going to do is get right now to something called the HARE, H-A-R-E, psychopathy or psychopathy. I've heard it pronounced both ways. I'm going to call it psychopathy. The HARE psychopathy checklist. All right, Robert Hare, in his book Without Conscience, not conscious, conscience. Like she said in As Good as It Gets, conscience, that doesn't make any sense. Conscience, that means having something in your mind that drives you toward right behavior. This is something we were talking about in our last episode that I might be removing in my new utopia, where we could bring the level of rules, laws, and expectations down to human behavior instead of trying to continue to rise human behavior up to those rules. In his book, Without Conscience, lists the characteristics of a psychopath that he uses as part of his checklist. This HARE psychopathy checklist is a complex clinical tool used in the clinical evaluation to determine if someone is a psychopath or not. Just because somebody has some of these traits does not make them a psychopath. That's very important for you guys to know. Just like when I talk about body language, seeing one thing or two things doesn't really mean anything. You need to see clusters, and they need to be consistent with context. In other words, you know the person. So think about them while you're looking at these and say, are they just hitting on one or two? Or are they hitting on 5 or 6? That's when you start worrying. I don't approve of this witch hunt that has begun for psychopaths. It's fun. It's always fun looking for the ogre, right? It's always fun looking for the shark. But let's be careful with it, okay? Because these people are sick and they need help. You can't inject conscience into somebody. You cannot inject empathy into somebody, but they can get help through medicines and counseling and other forms of treatment. However, it never hurts to know when you're dealing with one, does it? All right, before we get back into our fictional story about this woman named Chuckette, we're going to continue on this psychopathy stuff. Do you want to know how to identify them? Or would you rather not know? Put your blinders on. I advise you don't listen to the next 10 minutes of this show if you don't want to know who's a psychopath. Keep in mind, another thing I'm going to add is that for any one person to truly be labeled a psychopath, it takes an 8-year clinical psychiatrist with MD behind their name. You and I cannot just ascribe somebody the title psychopath. But you know, don't you? You know. You don't need the 8 years, do you? Once you've found a source you trust on how to evaluate these types of personality traits and behaviors, once you've found that, you know. Your gut knows. Listen to your gut. But again, I just have to say for the record that nobody's a psychopath, in my view, until they have been labeled one by someone that's qualified. And maybe that's because I have a lot of respect for the field of psychiatry and all the work they do. But let's talk about it. This is what he says. These are the characteristics of a psychopath. First, let me go share this link first on the Facebook page, because you probably want to bookmark this if you're worried about psychopaths showing up in your life. Let's do that first. So now you know how to find what I'm reading from. That's on the Facebook page for the announcement of this episode you're listening to. That is facebook.com/TruthOnTapShow. Truth on Tap Show. Glib and superficial. Psychopaths tend to talk a lot. They know how to read people and can be funny and entertaining, and they're often boasting, telling stories about how good they are.